All right, so the GPU, what are its characteristics? Well, the graphical processing unit, it's designed to perform complex processing for video output. And disregarding for a moment that this graphical illustration here has the video card on the screen, that's not normally where it appears. Usually it's inside of the computer in an expansion slot. Some of them will actually occupy 2 expansion slots, just depending upon how fancy or powerful that video card is. Or people that perform high-end GPU processes may have 2 video cards or more in there that are kind of linked together for parallel processing. Okay, so anyway, even a single GPU, however, can perform what we call parallel processing. So what that means is a CPU would do sequential processing, which is more like serial in nature, one after the other, one process after the other. A GPU, on the other hand, can do parallel processing, where it might have multiple things being processed all at one time. Okay, so it's just capable of more in that respect. Not necessarily better or worse. I mean, in certain respects, as you can imagine, that could be better because it could do more things at a time. But it just has a different purpose than a CPU. And there are hundreds sometimes, or even thousands of small cores, whereas with the CPU, remember, we had 4 cores, 8 cores. High end, you're looking at, maybe 32, 64, 96 cores, something in that range, if you're at the top end of that. But most consumer level PCs are probably going to be 8 cores, maybe 16, okay? Whereas a GPU, wow, that's a lot of, even though they're small cores, that's a lot going on right there. And it has very high memory bandwidth. So remember, your CPU has to communicate with the RAM, all right? And it does that through the bus. And that bus is only going to allow so much bandwidth. Now, it's high in most modern motherboards. That's good. But on a GPU, it actually has a lot of times memory on board onto that particular graphical processing unit. That video card is what I should say, really. The GPU is the brains of that video card. But it has very high bandwidth to the actual memory that exists on that particular graphics card. It's not that it doesn't interact with the RAM that might be on the motherboard as well. It's just that it also has its own dedicated RAM, usually on that card. There's also high floating point performance, which is really good for rendering the graphics, scientific calculations, because you don't have to use the GPU for only video. You can use it for other things. So in scientific applications, it may take advantage of that floating point performance mathematically to produce faster results. It's also useful for things like machine learning algorithms, well beyond our current context here. There's also heat management here. So even in this illustration, you can see it's got 3 fans on. A lot of video cards, especially higher performing ones, will have at least 1 fan. I think mine has 2. Actually, let me get one. I have one in the drawer over there. So let me open up my little goodie bag here. This, by the way, is a static resistant kind of a bag. Usually they have some kind of foil on them, and it protects the device that's inside of it from static shock. Because even a shock from like your fingertip onto the device, even if you don't feel it, it's usually too powerful to safely touch that device, because it could still ruin some of the chips on there. But anyway, here you can see I've got a video card. This is a little bit of an older one, and it's a little bit smaller, but it's got a big fan on it because you need to manage the cooling there. And if we look a little closer, you can see it's got those cooling fins inside of there as well. And those also help to dissipate the heat from off of that video card. So the kind of ports you have out of the back of it, let me go back. You may have a variety of different outputs. We'll talk more about those possibly later on, but there's a digital video or DVI right here. Okay, that's one of the outputs that we have. We have an HDMI right here. And then we also have a display port out right there at the top. Some of them may have a VGA on them as well, but that's pretty old and we don't really see that much anymore, at least on most desktops. You actually can still see it on servers though, because almost anything is compatible with a VGA out, even though I didn't have one on that card. A lot of servers and other essential types of devices may have a VGA out because you can almost always find something that's compatible with that. Anyway, also there's going to be much more complex drivers and software on GPU products. So I've got a couple of utilities open here. So for example, this one came with my particular card. It's an NVIDIA. That's the brand of my video card. And I don't really fiddle with this too much, so I'm not too keen on all of the details with this kind of stuff. But there are a lot of different adjustments you can make to it. So I could, for example, manage image settings here. I could manage 3D settings, adjust the quality. Usually the higher the quality or the more complex you make it, the more it could potentially slow down the video card depending upon what it's capable of. If you give it more to process, it's going to have a harder time processing that. But again, a lot of them are very high end. So you can also manage 3D settings, adjust the image scaling. I could turn that on or off. I don't even know what that is, but anyway, well, I kind of do. It has to do with resizing. But anyway, a lot of other stuff here, a lot of which is very obscure, but people that deal with video a lot might be more familiar with these, or that have a scientific application for which they need some of those particular settings. I'm just going to cancel out of all that for now, but I just wanted to point out that these types of devices have a lot more complexity and requirements than what you might get for other kinds of devices. Now, here, it just so happens that this is another software piece that goes with my video card, and you don't have to memorize all of this. I'm just illustrating here that the video card is possibly the most complex device that you'll have in your computer, and kind of corresponding to that is that the drivers are very complex, and the software that is going to accompany those can also be very complex. Here's something to keep in mind as well. Sometimes you might try to access a feature, not just on video card, but on anything, really, printer, scanner, video card, whatever it is. And you might have heard that there's a certain feature that's available, but it's not available to you for some reason. Doesn't appear in the software or in the features. Doesn't appear to work if you push the button on the printer or the scanner. Doesn't really do anything. That could be because you're only depending upon drivers that were installed from Windows, from the operating system, that are very kind of vanilla, basic. The main function of them is just give you basic functionality. But these will give you, usually will unlock higher end features or vendor specific features. So anyway, I'm going to get past that. So here I have a driver update that just happened as soon as I started to show you this. So I'm just going to go ahead and next through that so we can see some other things. I can optimize for games and creative applications. It can analyze my hardware. I actually use OBS Studio, and it's kind of giving an illustration there. That's what I'm using to record right now, so maybe I'll leave that on. You can use NVIDIA Overlay to capture videos and screenshots, monitor performance and the like. I'm just going to go ahead. Oops, it wants me to log in now. Don't want to do that. Anyway, there it all is. So you can see a lot of different kinds of additional functionality we can get out of this. We can optimize it for a specific software, and it just shows you more here that you can do with it. I'm going well past what we need here, so I'm going to go ahead and close all of this up, other than to show you other things, again, like program settings for various software. You can optimize that for whatever your current purpose is. And largely because of things like, let me see here, these features right here, you can use it for lots of other kinds of things, such as crypto mining. Well, without getting into that whole discussion of, Bitcoin mining and all the crypto stuff, ultimately all that boils down to very complex math that is designed to guarantee that a transaction cannot be counterfeited or circumvented in some way, and so that bitcoins can be created. In order to get a Bitcoin, basic idea here is something has to solve a very complex math problem. And if it's successfully solved, then guess what? You win the prize. You win a Bitcoin. There are a finite number of Bitcoin out there. So when we get to the end of it, that's all there is. There won't be any more made. But all of that requires very complex mathematical calculations. And again, all of those things up there that I bracketed up there at the top will contribute to that. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from CBT Nuggets. Also, if you're new to IT or are interested in an IT career, visit cbtnuggets.com and sign up for a free trial.